Hey everyone, so today is a little bit of a different video. I'm going to be talking a lot of human design in this video, something I've been thinking about doing for a while as an emotional authority. I have chewed on this for probably the past year or so about potentially putting together some videos just based solely on my experience and my deconditioning process, and so I'm just gonna kind of let it flow. So just to give a little bit of a background, I've been studying human design for over 2.5 years. I've been really deep in my deconditioning experiment for the past year or two, I would say, more so in the past year. In the last 8 months or so, I have lived alone. So that was kind of like next level. I really was able to become more familiar with my own design and my own defined centers, and become more familiar with my emotional wave, and just really learn to love on so many different parts of myself. So I think I'm just gonna let it flow today. Something I've really been exploring a lot lately is my Quad-Rightness and what that really means. And so if you're a quad right, if you look at your chart, you can look at all the arrows by the head, and if they're all pointing right, then you're a quad right. And this generally means that you're just a very receptive person. You're here to just go with the flow of life. You're kind of an infinite well. You're just constantly taking in information and frequency and vibration from the environment, even if you're not aware of it. We tend to learn very differently in the way that we intake information, and whoever we are around, it depends. They may pull really amazing information out of you, or if you're feeling like the conversation isn't like high quality, or you're feeling kind of stupid around certain people, those probably aren't the best people to be around. So I've been kind of experimenting with that and playing with that, and I recently moved to Mexico, so a little bit of a background. Just in the past year, I took a living year design course and then the advanced rave ABC training earlier this year in 2022, and I ended a 6-year relationship, not because that person wasn't necessarily right for me. It was more like we kind of felt intuitively the need to have our own space and get to know ourselves a little bit more. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now. I lived in an apartment for the past 6 months or so by myself before moving to Mexico, and it was just so transformative for me. And along that period, I ended up leaving my job / getting let go because I wouldn't go back to the state, the original state that my job was in, and for other medical reasons. And so once I let go of my job, it felt very right. It wasn't in alignment with it, and I've been wanting to leave it for the past year or two. Like, it was like pretty out of alignment for my soul, and nothing wrong with like the people or anything. It's just, like I said, it wasn't in alignment for me. So once that job was let go, I had another month or so on my lease. So during that time period, I packed all of my things up. I sold as much as I could, and bought a one-way ticket to Mexico. So that's where I'm at right now. I've been here for almost a month, and my 3536 channel is completely loving it here, and it's just brought me to a whole nother level in my experiment. And so since coming to Mexico, I wanted to give myself some time to relax, to kind of decompress from working a job that was affecting my health and affecting my mental, my emotional, my physical health. And I wanted to lean more into my receptivity. So I'm not currently working, besides picking up human design readings and doing some side freelance work. And that's just something that's happening organically. So that kind of goes along with my Quad-Rightness. My entire life, I've tried to plan everything. So I have created schedules for every single day. I'm going to wake up at X amount of time and do yoga, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go do this. And it was just like my days were always packed. I was basically living my life as a manifesting generator. And so my lesson here, my experiment, is really learning how to live the complete opposite way. And as a manifester, I've noticed it ebbs and flows based on what urges I have, but I feel like I'm in a very deep healing and resting period right now. And so I'm just kind of observing what urges come up. And this was kind of one of them, I guess. So I'm not trying to force anything. I'm tapping more into my emotional authority on a deeper and deeper level every single day. It's actually, I've been tracking my emotional wave for the past, since November of 2021, and it is now June 2022. So I have a lot of data on my my emotional wave, and it's really helped me to see what I was feeling, what I was going through on certain days, who I was around, even down to what percentage of the moon, was it a full moon, a new moon, and like what percentage in between, and then like what my appetite was. So I took a lot of things into consideration when I was tracking my emotional wave. So taking all of those things into consideration, I've learned how to get in touch with my emotional wave and understand it on a much deeper level than the surfacey of, like we have our highs and our lows and all of that. But there's so much more that goes into it, especially taking into account being a Quad-Right, being a manifester. It's a little bit of, I don't know, it's kind of weird being a manifester, but being an emotional authority, because you really do need to wait through things. So when I have like my urges and my highs, I've had to learn how to just be more patient. And I really feel like that's my lesson in this lifetime. And when I go deeper into like my gene keys, that is my kind of my life lesson. Because I have gate 5-4 in my personality Earth. So, and it's an undefined center, my undefined sacral. So not something I have full access to, but it's something that I'm aware of that goes along with my emotional wave. So not sure where this is going, but I'm kind of just rambling, just whatever comes to mind. So I was talking about being a Quad-Right and kind of leaning into more of that receptivity and not planning anything. And so I kind of just wake up every single morning and I'm like, what do I feel like doing? What does my body feel like? Am I feeling stiff? Do I need to move my body? Did I hang out with a lot of people recently? Do I need to take some alone time? So really coming back to that stillness within myself and connecting with myself on a deeper level has been so much more fulfilling for me, for living a life that is more joyful and enjoyable. And it's honestly been just magical being here, because the more that I don't plan, the more just these amazing synchronicities happen, where I'm meeting these amazing people here and I'm connecting with them on really deep levels, and I'm helping them with their businesses and vice versa. And my fourth line is absolutely loving it. I'm meeting so many different people, and the other day I pulled a bunch of people together for my birthday, and there were a lot of connections made there. And so it's just one of my favorite things is bringing people together and connecting them. And so that all happened. I think that's the only thing I've really planned is my birthday, and it was really just going swimming and then grabbing dinner. So it was very relaxed. And yeah, so the synchronicities for me, I'm just an observer, and I'm on the roof too. I've been on the roof. See, I'm 34, so I've been on the roof for 4 years maybe, but I would say I really felt the final shift of being on the roof probably a year or two ago, and it was kind of a struggle at first, like that final push of being up on the roof, because it was like I felt like this identity was lost, and I didn't want to go on as many adventures, and I didn't want to travel as much, and I didn't want to be around people, and it felt very foreign. I was like, who am I? Like, what do I even enjoy doing? You know, I let go of a lot of people, a lot of friends. I stopped interacting with certain people or family members because I just didn't want to put up with their bullshit, or I just didn't feel in alignment with them anymore. And if anyone's a 6 line on the roof, they know that, like, you have less tolerance for people and things and situations that you would have, kind of put up with in the past or said yes to. And maybe I have a completely open heart as well, so maybe that's part of it. But I just feel like being on the roof, I'm like, I just want to be up here and be comfy and be in my own zone, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And my joy is more important than, you know, being with somebody that brings me down or has negative thought patterns, or they're just not aware of themselves. And so that's another thing that I've been really aware of being here in Mexico, is the people that I hang out with, especially as an emotional being and an open G center. I'm seeing how I can shift and change when I'm around different people, and I see like how my eating habits have changed. If I'm around people who drink, am I doing the same thing? How am I feeling? How is my body feeling? So being here has just been like a huge experiment for me. And when I'm around a lot of people, I need to give myself at least 2 days kind of alone in my own aura to say, oh, okay, I'm feeling this way, or my body's feeling really heavy because I was around these people and I was eating really shitty food, and that's not how I normally eat. And not that that's like a bad thing or anything, or those people aren't good. It's just an observation of saying, okay, is this where I want to spend my time? Do I need to make these unhealthy food choices, or not necessarily unhealthy, just choices that I don't normally eat because I know how my body feels? And so the time that I spend alone is a really great reflection time. And so today is actually one of those reflection times. I've been spending a lot of time with a group of people the last few days, and I love all of them, and they're so amazing. I do know some of their human design charts, and so it's interesting as an emotional person. You know, I tend to need to hang out with a person multiple times in order to really get a deep sense of whether this person is correct for me or not. Normally I know right off the bat, just intuitively, and I think that's part of being a manifestor too, because I just see through people's bullshit right away, and that my strongest sense is feeling. So I immediately know like whether a person's lying to me when their words and their actions don't match up with their energy. And so there's been a lot of learning to be more discerning while I'm here as well. So when I'm around certain people, I'm saying like, oh wow, okay, I'm getting a deeper understanding of how different types and profiles act, and I see how they think, and I see what they can offer. I can see where they have blocks and where they can get tripped up. And so it's also helping me to understand other types on a deeper level, and with absolutely like no judgment. It's just more of me just observing, being on the roof. You know, I'm a 4/6, so I'm becoming more conscious of my unconscious profile. And yeah, so as my open G, that's something that I've really been exploring. It's one of my favorite aspects of my chart. I mean, so much of my chart I love, but being an open G center, it's like I can just bounce around different places and see what feels right for me, what feels good for me. And it's like I get to try on a bunch of different hats before I find the ones that I'm like, oh, this feels really good, or I feel happy or healthy in this environment around these people, or the career that I'm in, or things like that. So, you know, my environment is dry kitchen, and so when I'm constantly going around, I'm like constantly around other people. Mexico is just like, so many expats are here, so there's constantly, you know, people talking in like so many different languages here, and so many collaborations, especially when I go to coffee shops. There's just people working on different things, and it's just been really healthy for me to be in those environments. I feel so much more creative here, and I feel more motivated and energized. And even though my environment is dry and I'm in Mexico and it's super humid here, like, to me it doesn't affect much. There is a bit of uncomfortableness, like, since I am also indirect light, I know that it's difficult for me to like read and study and like concentrate on things when I'm in like a direct light, and that's something I've known about for a while. But the actual humidity, I actually don't mind it at all. I love the heat, as long as it's consistent. If there's like a transition between the hot to the cold, then that's a little uncomfortable for me. But as long as I have kind of like a consistent temperature, being that dry environment, like I feel okay. So for now, like I just love being in the sun, and I know that I'm indirect light, so technically I should want to do everything at night, and I should be more nocturnal, and I am. I do feel most creative at night, but I love being in the sunshine. Like my soul just, it's so happy when it's in the sun. And so being in Mexico, and when I lived in the States, I lived in Florida and on the beach, and so it was just like one of the things that made me so happy. Like I've lived in different places around the US, and before I lived in Florida, I was in Seattle for a while, and it was like I felt like I became a vampire. I put on a lot of weight, and then I was struggling a lot, and I couldn't put on weight, and it was just like, it was just not a healthy environment for me because I wasn't getting like the nutrients and the nourishment from the sunshine. And the sun is very different on the West Coast and that far up north, and I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel healthy. I didn't feel super creative. I felt kind of stagnant. I mean, I was also living a life that was not very in alignment with human design back then. But it's interesting to look back and see physically how that affected me not having that sunshine, and like just being in a healthy environment, because it's like when you live on the beach or you live near a beach, like you also get all of the like nutrients, like the air like blows in that salt water, and like the whole area, just you're constantly breathing that in, and it's just so healthy. So, you know, right now in my experiment, the environment I'm in is really great, and maybe as I go deeper and continue to decondition, then maybe this may not be the correct environment for me, and I may gravitate more towards a dry environment, and I may not want to be in the sun as much. I don't know, but all I know is that this feels right where I'm at, and my open G is very happy. So another thing that I've really noticed being in Florida, it felt very, I mean, it was just very Americanized. It was very, I felt kind of bored where I was at. I had to drive, you know, everywhere I went, and I just felt kind of like stagnant. I needed more adventure. I needed more variety, and, you know, I was able to create that for myself, but something just felt kind of off. Something felt wrong, and I was trusting my intuition, and I was like, I just need to go on this big adventure. I need to, you know, being transitioned onto the roof, I need to go, you know, really discover what I love and what I enjoy. And so I booked a one-way ticket to Mexico. It was the only solution. Actually, no, it was one of the countries that, you know, sunshine, and then there's the least amount of restrictions COVID-wise, because I didn't want to have to like take tests and quarantine and do all of that stuff if I went over to like Europe or different areas that I've been wanting to travel to. So Mexico, I was like, all right, I'll just start here and see what happens. And it was just one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I would say, like, when I was in Florida and I was feeling that bored and kind of stagnant, like, I still felt pretty healthy physically in that environment. I still had some lingering chronic health issues, and some I'm still kind of like transitioning and working through here in Mexico, related to my digestion. And but I feel like they're getting better since I've been here. But especially, like, I can see where my 35-36 has more stimulation, there's more variety, and with my open G, it's like I get to kind of taste test a little bit of everything here. So I have that variety of that stimulation, and I'm also living, I'm living kind of like in a condo here with a lot of other people, but I have like my own private room, and, you know, I kind of just do whatever I want every single day. So there's a lot of ebb and flow where I'm at right now. So, you know, as a quad right, I'm just waking up every day, and, you know, I'll just be like, oh, what do I want to do? I feel like eating soup. And so I go to a restaurant and I run into somebody that I know, and then we end up talking and we have dinner, and then they're like, oh, well, do you want to go do something tonight? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so we go to the beach, and then someone else contacts me and they're like, hey, do you want to come here? We're having pizza. And I'm like, sure, let's connect. And so I go there, and then I meet someone else there, and it just ends up being a really beautiful night. And it's just like, there's so many synchronicities, and I just laugh about it because I'm saying yes to a lot of things and saying no to a lot of things as well. So when I say I'm being more receptive and just kind of going with the flow, that's an example of it. Today, I really tapped into myself, and I was like, I've been around a lot of people that were kind of draining to me, and I was out late and just need some time to myself. So I got an invitation to go somewhere this morning, and I was like, no, like, I'm just gonna maybe take it easy today. And then I got another invitation to go out to lunch, and I was like, initially I said yes, and then I retracted, and I was like, no, you know what, I need to honor myself today and just kind of rest. And so I do say no to a lot of things, and it's been really empowering because I'm allowing myself to tap more into my emotional state, my physical state, and what I really need. And so just really getting to know myself on a deeper level, so I'm much more grounded. And even though I am kind of just going with the flow, I'm tapping more and more deeper into my strategy and authority. And so yeah, that's been my experience with my open G and just being a quad right. So it's just been magical. I don't know what's next. I mean, I'd like to really travel around Mexico for a while, and but it's so funny because I catch my mind trying to plan next steps, and I've been noticing when I want to do something, I just have it as an idea in my mind, and I'm like, oh, I really want to go here, so I'm going to rent a car, and I'm going to do it on this day, and I'm going to go with these people, and it's like my mind is trying to plan all these things, and then I've been playing around with being like, okay, I'm just going to send this out and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And maybe I do wake up one morning and I feel like I want to rent a car and go somewhere. But I don't feel like that in this moment when I tap into my emotional authority. It's something I'm kind of sitting with still. And so, yeah, it's been interesting to observe. And so that's kind of been my experience. Today I've just been keeping it real simple and feeling a little bit tired, so I may go lay down and take a nap and maybe do some yoga tonight. So yeah, I'm giving myself a couple months just going on this sabbatical to not worry about anything and not do anything. And I remember what I was going to say. My mind was like blanking earlier. So when I'm like making these plans, my mind is like taking over everything and saying, oh, you need to rent this car or whatever. So as I'm like thinking about these things I want to do, I just say, okay, well, I'm eventually going to do it, and I just trust that it's going to happen in the perfect time. And that's something that's really, really, I've really had to learn with my 35-36 channel, is that not to have expectations about experiences that I'm having, because I have had so many places that I've wanted to go and experience, but I was going to have to plan for it, or like I needed a car or whatever, and then like the past few weeks things have just lined up where someone's like, hey, do you want to go here? I have a car. And I'm like, yeah, I do actually. And so it's like I don't have to do anything. And so it's almost like there's an unlearning of doing and learning how to just be. Not really like learning, it's more of just remembering that you can just be. And yeah, another like random thing, I was like looking for some specific, like 2 very specific things that I was like, I didn't really know where to get in Mexico. And my friend invited me out to dinner, and I normally like ride my bike, but it was late, and something was like inside of me was like, no, just like rent a taxi or something. And so I ended up renting a taxi and going over to meet them, and they weren't there. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go eat. And the place that I was gonna go to was closed. And so I walked a little bit farther down where I was at and found like another like healthy cafe. And so I went in there and I found like the first like health food thing that I was looking for. I was like, holy shit, like I can't believe they have this here. And so I met up with my friends, and we were walking past a pharmacy, and I went in there and I was like, I feel like I need to go in here. And I didn't know why, but I ended up finding it's like hydrogen peroxide. It's like something I didn't know where to get. And I was like, oh, I actually need to buy this. So it's like I didn't really know why I was meeting my friends there, because I had gone to a yoga class and I could have just stayed in for the night, and they had already had dinner, and so I was just kind of floating, and I was like just completely turning my mind off and just saying, okay, I'm going to tap into my intuition, I'm going to tap into my my solar plexus and see how I'm feeling. And then we ended up going to this like really amazing like rooftop place that I would have never found or gone to on my own, and had just amazing conversation with people, and we talked about human design, and there's a potential like partnership there, and my friends drove, so they just ended up dropping me off on their way home, because I was like on their way home, and that was why I didn't need to ride my bike. So I'm learning to like tune into those little nuances. And I don't know if it's just my intuition. I don't have a defined spleen. I don't have a defined sacral. I just have my emotional system, or my solar plexus, and then my strongest sense is feeling. But like I said, I'm just really learning to tap into my intuition, and maybe this is something to do with my Quad-Rightness as well, and where I'm hearing that little voice that's like, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea, or maybe you should do this, and just going with that. And even though my mind is like, well, this doesn't make sense, or we have to pay money for this, why are we doing this, or whatever, and I just don't even listen to my mind, and just these magical nights just happen, and this is like almost every single day, and it just blows my mind every single time it happens, and it's just really beautiful. So yeah, I think that's all that I have to say for today. Might go lay down, but if anyone else is a Quad-Right or a manifestor or a 4-6 profile, or has the 3536 channel, I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are, or even if you have like an open G center, if you guys can relate to any of this and what's your experience. I'm just kind of experimenting with all of this right now with just pure curiosity, like enjoyment and no judgment. It's like there's no good or bad right now, especially kind of being in your human design experiment. For me, just like, why react to anything? And I think a large part of that is me being on the roof right now, because I'm just like, like this doesn't have to get me down. And so just really enjoying this phase that I'm in right now. And so I'm going to be sharing some more videos in the future. I'd like to talk a little bit more about being a Quad-Right and a manifestor. That's something I've been, trying to connect with a little bit more, because Quad-Rights are technically a completely different type. That's what Ra has mentioned several times. And so I'm exploring what that means for me, and tapping more into that, and removing a lot of old conditioning and limiting beliefs, and just kind of going deeper into that. So I hope you guys enjoyed all of this, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.